Hola, bienvenidas y bienvenidos a La Hora Extra. Yo soy Hiram Sánchez Pavón y hoy vamos a hablar de un tema muy importante en la economía global, el tema del transporte. Y para eso el día de hoy tengo a dos grandes invitados, a Katie de mi lado derecho, izquierdo para ustedes, y a Edgar, quienes se han dedicado a este tema en específico por muchos años y nos van a compartir lo que es ser parte del mundo del transporte y la logística. Welcome to this program. I'm very happy to be here with you. Por cierto, esta cápsula va a ser diferente porque la vamos a hacer en inglés y pues no se olviden poner de los subtítulos. La Hora Extra was founded with this idea of sharing our experiences, of labor experiences with all the viewers, and basically because I discovered in this program that if we have one thing in common, is that we all have to work to survive in this world. It doesn't matter what you do, you have to work. So, we've been having different interviews with different professional activities, right? And in this program, I would love to know what are you doing, where you work, and how is this affecting your personal life. So if you agree with me, Katie, we can start with you.
Perfect.
Okay, so please tell me your name and what do you do for living in this ITF organization? What's ITF for us to know?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. So yes, my name is Katie Finn. I'm an American. I live outside of Washington, D.C., but I work for a global organization called the International Transport Workers Federation. And specifically in my role, I work with unions that represent workers in warehousing, logistics, distribution, and the realities of life for those workers, different from country to country, but very similar too. Warehouse workers are not seen often, right? The truck driver that delivers your products, you see their face, you talk to them, right? But the warehouse worker that put that item on the truck or separated it from a big pallet, you don't see them, you don't hear their voices. And so too often those workers are exploited and really taken advantage of. So our organization seeks to work with unions that organize warehouse workers and work with companies to establish standards in the industry, to enforce those standards, and to raise those standards so that workers, warehouse workers across the world can be ensured the basic human rights that come with all workers.
Thank you, Katie. And what about you, Edgar? Please tell us your name and what are you doing here in the ITF?
Okay, Hiram. First of all, thank you for this interview. I'm Edgar Diaz. I'm the Regional Secretary of ITF Americas, based in Panama, and we have offices in Panama and Rio that cover all the region, from Mexico to the south in Argentina and Chile. So yes, we are here, of course, because we represent the voice of the worker, but not only in one of the models. We represent all the models. We're talking about the railway, talking about roads, we're talking about aviation, and also tourism as well, and other areas that every model of transport, well, the ITF can cover. So we have more than 28 unions in the region that almost represent almost 900,000 workers.
Okay.
And all, of course, we're here in Mexico basically to improve our membership and of course try to get as much as we can partners so we can develop the work that we're doing, especially in the transport industry.
Interesting. So to let our viewers know the more basic question, what's ITF?
Well, it's good question. To understand, the ITF is one of the international federation that belongs to the global unions. It represents about nearly 20 million workers all over the world, and is a federation that born in 1896 as a result of the strike of the dockers, and born in the one of the two main sections that we have in ITF, that is maritime. Dockers and the seafarers joined together because at that time appeared a winch, and the winch was attempting against their jobs. So they organized and was the solidarity was very well, and the dockers arrived in a good CBA in that time, good agreement, that they saw that that was a good momentum to build something more beyond the border. So that's what ITF born. At the beginning was another name, and then 3 or 4 years they became ITF Transport, International Transport Worker Federation, and now they started to organize the rest of the model transport in the industry.
Okay. So I think hearing what ITF is and what are your roles in this organization, and it's very interesting how unions of different countries have come together to form this international union, right? And this is something our viewers for the first time are seeing in this program, because we've already have had interviews with union leaders or lawyers, but this is the first time we have the opportunity to speak with global union leaders as you guys. So we're very pleased of having you here, and well, we're going to start to make some questions to our guests. For you, Edgar, I have a few questions. I understand you, or we understand you are in the Latin American region specifically, and we've seen that in many governments of the region, more recently have come with different political ideologies and implementing different projects in their economy, in their societies, and more specifically in Argentina, we've seen that there's a big problem with aviation in general, with aviation workers. So what's happening in Argentina with this specific sector of workers?
Well, we have to recognize that Argentina now, in our view, our workers, our affiliates, not only aviation, because start talking about the whole trade union movement, they are suffering a tough moment because the government that Milei's command in Argentina is a far-right government that in their ideologies try to implement kind of policies that really affect the workers that are organized. Specifically, Aerolíneas Argentina, which is a local carrier, the national flag. Obviously, it's managed by Argentinian. We have 5 unions that represent, strong unions that represent the workers there. We are talking about the cabin crew unions, the pilot unions, the ground staff unions, and the ATC controllers as well. So it means that there is attempt from the government to take out the benefits, their rights, and disseminate the CBA, the labor conditions that they have. They have a good labor conditions in comparison with the rest of the workers in aviation in the industry and in the region. But also, it's fair to mention that they are also trying to implement the open sky policy, because it's not the same that if Argentina open the sky, they have to compete with, like instance, with the American airlines and the big carriers that has more equipment, modern, and there's a lot of money to implement roads, that they have to compete in that disparity way. That we call the social dumping. So in that terms, the workers are trying to stop that and try to get as much or keep the benefit that they have until now, and try to avoid that the Aerolíneas Argentina and goes to the bankruptcy.
So Edgar, how's Milei affecting aviation workers in Argentina?
It's amazing because he's a controversial president that really don't care about the workers, don't care about the working class. They just only want to implement policies to his friends, that basically is the employers, and also the big capital multinational companies.
So Edgar, it's very interesting what you're telling us, and you use 2 concepts that we don't know, and I would like you to explain for us what's social dumping and what's the open sky policy? So Katie, now going with you, what's your role and what experiences you have had supervising the supply chain in our country, in Mexico, and the regions you've been working with?
Absolutely, and as we've sort of explained, the ITF, part of our power comes in that we represent workers at every stage of the supply chain. Anything that you use or eat or hold was made or grown and made its way to you. And along that way, it was handled and moved by our members, right? Which means every step of the supply chain, there are ITF unions there to ensure that those workers are treated fairly and that you can feel comfortable that the goods you're using got there in a way that respects workers' rights.
I mean, if like aviation workers, you see them, we cannot imagine what the workers we don't see suffer, right? And they are less visualized, right? And for you, what's the biggest problem with this supply chain workers?
So I would actually start with what is the biggest solution.
Okay.
In that, because the problems are there, and the problems are such that from country to country, based on the laws in your country, you may have protections that are already given to you, but there are other countries where there are none. So for us, it's that idea of how do we ensure workers everywhere have those rights and have those protections, and we ensure that by working together, because these supply chains in Mexico, for example, they're not just staying in Mexico. Goods are coming from other countries into Mexico, being made and built here in Mexico and going to other countries, right? So for us to be able to connect the workers and the unions across these supply chains in solidarity and demand that the conditions in one country be met in the other. There's no reason that one company should treat their workers differently based on where they are. And that is our job and our fight to empower the workers and their unions to work together collectively to demand and win on those fights.
So Katie, what's going on with the e-commerce companies and their warehouses workers?
Absolutely. The rise of e-commerce, being able to buy those goods online and have them to your home in minutes, has created such pressure on the workers whose job it is to get it there. Perhaps unrealistic pressures.
So, after COVID-19 specifically, as consumers, we started using e-commerce apps like crazy, buying a lot of stuff, maybe sometimes unnecessary, right? But for us, it's really easy to get your phone and search the app and ask for something. But what's behind that, Katie? What's working like in those types of companies? What are the workers suffering, and what are like maybe some advantages workers do have there?
Absolutely. And again, I think we all, I'd say, fell victim to it. We all took advantage. We all do take advantage of the ease and access of ordering things online, not leaving your home, and now you have it, right? But the reality of what that means for the workers in logistics is that the demands on them to work at faster paces, sometimes unsafe, unhealthy paces, and the way in which their employers are looking over their shoulder to make sure faster, that if we're not careful, that's creating a race to the bottom for warehouse workers, for logistics workers, and it is our job as workers globally to say no, right? That race to the bottom stops now. We set the floor, and now we start pushing back
How can
up.
we do that as workers, Katie, in your opinion?
We have to use the power that we have. We are the labor. We are the ones that make sure that those goods get from point A to point B. So by working together, by communicating and sharing and standing up for one another, one person's fight, one worker's fight is everyone's fight. One worker's fight is every customer's fight, if you ask me.
Yeah, so as consumers, we can also be part of this labor rights fight, right? And as consumers, what can we do to help workers get their best rights out of it?
We've seen this happen before, which is the good news. This is, sadly, it's a fight we'll probably always fight, but we saw it specifically in with garment workers in the clothing industry, right? You heard about the conditions and the brands, the companies that were associated with it, and they took a hit, right? And that scared them. And it still scares them, right? So we work closely to develop relationships with those companies and say, let us be the partner to ensure that your supply chain, that the workers throughout your supply chain are respected. And then it is on them, it's their responsibility to work with logistics companies that meet those standards. And that's how we do it. We have to raise our voices because at the end of the day, it's the client, it's the customer that is most important to these companies.
Exactly.
So we have the power.
Y bueno, hemos hablado de lo que ellos hacen, de lo que ellos ven, de qué soluciones proponen, pero vamos a hablar de algo que para este canal es vital y muy importante. ¿Cómo ha afectado su vida profesional, su vida personal? Vamos ahora a pasar en la parte de inglés. So Katie, Edgar, please share with us, first of all, what were you doing before working in the ITF, right? And how this little road you've created in your lives have bring you joy, but also bad moments?
Well, for me, I've always worked in and for progressive causes. It just compelled me, right? And that took me into politics in the US and working to promote candidates and then policies that I thought helped the most people. Which is how I then was introduced to the union movement because I saw firsthand the role that unions played in improving people's lives, right? And it was clear to me that I could do more good, and I felt I could have a better effect, a more long-lasting effect by empowering workers to fight for themselves, even more than electing officials to make decisions for us. So that's how I found myself in the labor movement. And then as far as how it's impacted my life, I think what I think every day that I go to work is that somewhere around the world someone's working, right? And someone's probably working in conditions not as good as mine. And when I go to bed, someone is still working, right? And the idea that means my work never ends. And it does mean that there's sacrifices, right?
What kind of sacrifice?
I mean, I'm here with you, grateful to be here with you in Mexico today. But I'm not with my family in the United States, right? And the sacrifices my family has to make for me to continue this work that I feel so compelled to do. It means, of course, time away from family, time away from friends. But also, I would say, the reality is that we work with people every day, right? Workers from across the world, different types of workers, different types of work. But at the end of the day, then I go away. And it can be isolating if you're not careful. You share with a lot of people, you get to know their stories, but then you leave, right? And so I think it's trying to find those moments of community and that shared vision or that shared passion that keeps me going.
Okay. So Katie, tell me, how is it that your father and your family didn't want you to dedicate your life to the union movement?
I don't come from a union family. So when I entered into this world, my parents didn't understand it. They wanted me to go to university, get a job that they understood, and have that normal life, that traditional life. And when I entered into this, they said, whoa, what the hell are you doing?
Perfect. So Katie, tell us about your background. Where do you come from? And now that you are here, how do you see yourself? How does your family see you? How does your friends see you?
Yeah, I was born in a small Midwest town in the United States with no union members in my family. Not something they were familiar with, not something I was familiar with until my 20s, genuinely. But then once I did find my way into this world, I knew it's where I belonged. I think it's where I probably always belonged. But it's been a challenge to get the people who love me and care for me to understand what this world is. But I will say, once they do, once they see the good work that I do, it's been really nice to see the change in them from doubt and skepticism to support and keep going. So it's been a journey though.
So do you miss right now? Are you missing your family and what they tell you? Like every day you go to the hotel and you get a Zoom with them or something. What do they tell you? Come back, mom, with us. Come back, or what do they tell you?
And technology has made it easier, right? The fact that I can do a video call and see my family, my boys, my husband every day, but also that little text messages throughout the day. It's hard to miss their events. You know, my youngest had a tennis match yesterday and I could only see the video. I wasn't there. He didn't get to hear me cheering on very loudly. But I think I have 2 boys and I think it's important they respect that they see me going out into the world and doing all these good, important things that they maybe understand or not. And they especially love that whenever I come back, I bring sweets and treats from whatever country I visited.
That's really nice, really nice. So Edgar, now's your turn to tell us how's this professional life and working in an international union organization has been affecting your life in positive and negative ways, and also tell us where do you come from to get where you are now.
Well, it's a little story, but anyway, let's start with my. Well, I have to recognize that yes, I went to the university. I got a degree from an accountant and also in international relations. But when I started in my first employee, that was in 1991. And I felt the injustice that at that time we're suffering from the employer. So
you were suffering.
Yeah, I was suffering. Yes, because
what he was doing to you.
Well, actually, they say you have to work and finish your duties, even though you have to work in long shift hours. So they really don't care about that. Just need the work done. So things like that. And then I saw some injustice to my college. So that's what I started to think about. Yeah, we need to organize. And at that time we had a union. Well, actually it's my union base. That because I come from civil aviation industry. So I started as a shop steward, representing 200 in my branch. And then 4 years after, I became part of the board. And then escalating into inside the union. And until 2009, I became the general secretary of my union. But just for 1.5 hours, because after that I jumped to the ITF as a regional education coordinator, not as a boss that I'm right now. At that time, I began, the first step.
How long you've been in the ITF?
Well, since 2010, 11, like now 14 years old. I'm in the trade union movement. Well, in the trade union movement since I had 18 years old in my life. But in the ITF, 14 years old. So it's a long journey. That I have to mention that positive issue that there is. I always, I really don't like the injustice. When I see injustice, I feel that it's happened to me. That's why I have a close connection of the worker, because I understand and I say always that I am a worker too, even though in any model transport that the workers working.
So Edgar, how is it that you've been married 2 times and the first time you got divorced because of your work?
No, definitely. Sometimes I have to recognize, because we are really we spend a lot of time away from the family. It's hard for me, as Katie say. We're always traveling, cover the region, see problems, run projects with our affiliates, and in a positive way that we feel that we are part of a change for the worker, but in the bad way, sometimes we have to pay a high cost, the price. So
okay.
this was one of them. My first marriage.
So Edgar, how are relationships in this line of duty?
Well, in personal relation, to be honest, we have to get someone that has to understand what is our work, because it's very difficult. It's not so common to find someone that could understand what we are doing, because we are away from home. Sometimes we lose daughter's birthday. Sometimes we lose anniversary, wedding anniversary. It's past all the time for me, and so I have to see how can we avoid that kind of issue. But yes, it's a price that we have to pay, but it's the life and it's the word that I chose. So yes, it's being supporting the workers. For me, it's a way of life.
Yes, I believe every work has its own cost to pay, but for you guys being all over the region, many countries, and many places all the time, I guess this makes you maybe sometimes get very far away from the ones you love. And in your case, Edgar, what in this experience, and just for our viewers and even for the younger viewers that are thinking about getting into this type of profession, what's a recommendation you can give them if they want to keep a long distance relationship, right?
Well, actually, with all that technology that we have, it's more easy to get that kind of the connection. But I have to make sure, and especially for the women and the men and the young people, to follow your passion. If your passion is to fight for the workers, to fight for benefit, for better condition of the workers, and you feel you feel very good, feeling very good that you are doing the correct issue, let's follow, and you will definitely find someone that could understand you, and maybe that could find jointly, shoulder to shoulder with you, to achieve your objective. And if not, marriage again, as I say. So thank you for the invitation, and my final message to all your viewers and the audience is, guys, we need to organize the strong unions, be part of the unions. So always a collective force is going to give us the objectives that we want and we want to achieve. So, fuerza.
Thank you, Edgar. Katie.
And just to build on that, there are a lot of forces in the world that are trying to divide us, that tell us that the differences are greater than our similarities. Don't believe them. Right now, the reality is we first have so much more in common than we do apart, and we have to come together right now for the sake of workers, trade unionists, but for the sake of our world as it is and as we want it to be. So continue to seek out those similarities and those shared values and passions together.
Together we are more stronger.
Pues ya los escucharon. Esto fue La Hora Extra con Iram Sánchez Pavón. No se olviden de darle like a esta cápsula, de seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales y de dejarnos un comentario positivo. Muchas gracias.